we didn't live in time. We lived outside of time.
Interesting.
And if we'd been left to our own devices, so I know a lot of home-educated children who are left to their own devices to pursue what they love, they're all geniuses by the age of 12. The rest of us, we got sent to school and we were just fed information.
Yeah.
Which we then had to repeat. We weren't encouraged to follow our own pursuits, our own passions. But then you have to be very careful around things like homework, because homework can completely dominate all their free time. In the star map, I can see where their creativity lies. Because as human beings, what makes us different to every other animal is that we are creative.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health. And I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
Before we start today's video, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, once again to another Empowering Family Health podcast. Oh, I am so excited for this conversation with Deborah Maw. We're going to be talking all about how you can create how you can live your creative life, really bringing back that creativity spark. We're going to be talking all about astrology, using that as a tool to help you understand who you are, what it is that you love and what you value in your life, because this is what's really, really important. We're going to unpack all of that. But before we dive into Deborah, let me read you out Deborah's incredible bio. She is passionate and she is a dynamic writer, speaker and coach. She is dedicated to helping individuals tap into their unique potential wonder. She really, really is. Like many, she was denied her natural imaginative creativity as a child in favour of an intellectual career in biophysics. It took Deborah many years of exploring to rediscover her passions and dreams, her unique potential, what Deborah calls her creative genius. Deborah is an expert in astrology, spirituality, personal development and creativity. Her approach is intuitive and experiential, and with her talent for translating complex scientific and artistic principles into everyday language. Love that. She makes her presentations and teaching accessible and engaging for diverse audiences. She has won speaking awards, contributed to several anthologies, did I pronounce that right? And she's also been featured on MTV and Sky TV as well. Besides speaking, Deborah runs Creative Genius Retreats and coaching using astrological guidance. A lifelong nomad, Deborah draws from a wealth of unique perspectives and experiences, which she seemingly integrates into her stories, leaving a lasting impact on her audience, and she really does. And I have worked with Deborah in the past. And Deborah, we actually met on Simone Vincenzi, that's Italian. So we met through Simone on his program, and he's from GTEC, that stands for Growing Together Exponentially, isn't that right? Growing Together Exponentially. And we met on Simone's platform, and we're both a member of his group, and it's incredible. So that's where we are exploring our creative genius as well, Deborah. So Deborah, you're very welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Johann. I'm really excited to be here.
Tell us, let's go back to the beginning, Deborah. Why astrology and why creative genius? Can you tell us where all this came from? I'm really curious.
Yeah, well, as a small child, I was really into creativity. I was really into sewing. As a very, very small child, I loved sewing and making posters and things like that. And because I was the oldest of three, and my mother's family, it's like the whole family, like nobody was particularly clever or anything. So my mother didn't have very high expectations. And then I passed my 11 plus, and then I was, coming nearly top of the class at school. And she started to think, oh, hang on a minute, I think we've got a bright one here. And at 16, we have to choose whether we're going in the sciences or the arts in the UK. And so I wanted to do arts, but I was pushed into sciences because I was clever and told, oh, you can always do art as a hobby. And of course, you don't get much time for hobbies, really, do you, once you start having to work and things. And I was at university for 7 years, and I realized this really was not me. But fortunately, I had an auntie on my dad's side. And my mother didn't approve of my father's family. They divorced when I was quite small. But this auntie was like really bohemian. She was an ex-actress and she was a poet, and she didn't have children of her own. And I went to see her once, and she was so excited because I got this job in America, and I was like, I really don't want to do this job. No. I knew that I was just going to be in the lab all the time, and I'd had enough. And she said, well, what would you like to do? And nobody had ever asked me what I would like to do. What was my passion? And I said, well, I've always wanted to go traveling. She said, well, why don't you? And I said, well, yeah, why don't I? Wow. And I was gone for 4 years. And it was almost like I needed that length of time to unpick, to sort of peel away the layers of everything that had been superimposed on me, and to have an opportunity to really find what it was that I did love to do. And I realized that I love traveling, and I love being outdoors, being in wilderness. And I discovered I was really interested in complementary therapies, particularly psychological things. I got very much into something called Gestalt therapy, which is like where you work on your dreams.
And heard of that.
And obviously, I got right back into my creativity, into making things and stuff. And when I came back, I started focusing on those. And then I was in a really bad state when I got back. I was very, very low. I'd almost gone mute. I was so depressed. And an astrologer looked at my chart and said, you're having a Saturn return, you'll come out of it. And I remember I woke up one day and I thought, oh, I'm back to normal. And then another astrologer looked at my chart and said, you make a really good astrologer. And so that just got me off. And of course, astrology brings in all that psychological interest that I'd realized I had. And also it draws so much on the intuition.
The ability to rest is the body's key to healing. Do you struggle with getting asleep at nighttime, or staying asleep during the night and waking up the next morning feeling absolutely exhausted? My book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, is easy to understand. It's solution-based and it's packed with research to help you take back control of your night's sleep. My book is available on Amazon, and it's also available on howtogetagoodnightsleep.com. This book is also available in audio and ebook. So get your copy today and start having the best night's sleep that you've only ever dreamed of.
So I loved it. I was very fortunate. I found an astrology school that was bang on point for me. It was purely, one of those random chances. And I was also, at the same time as I was studying it, I was starting to really get into making clothes, and I'd learned how to do batik in Indonesia, and I was starting to get into that. And so I was just starting to build on these different themes, in my life. And it's taken a long time, but now, I can sort of pick out, okay, that was important, that was important, that was important, that was important. And now I sort of condense them. And I've realized actually nobody else needs to go through 40 years of trying to piece this all together. I know what key things are now. And of course, everybody's so much more ready. People are so much more conscious now than what they were 40 years ago. They're wanting these changes. They're ready for it. And so it's like it comes quickly now.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And like, it's such a common thing that I hear, people ending up in these jobs or university, right? Studying for something, you go to school, get a job, get married, all this stuff, all this conditioning, we hear this all the time, and everyone seems to do that. It's like, that's what we're supposed to do in life type of thing. And you found yourself, you were on your way to America and you were like dreading it because it didn't fill your heart up, and it was actually draining you. It was causing you to be exhausted, right? Because it wasn't filling you up. You weren't going to do what you enjoy doing, what you love doing. And you didn't really know what it was until your auntie came along and said, well, what do you like, and what would you like to do? That was such a pivotal moment. I can really hear that, and that was when you said, well, travel. And she said, your auntie said, well, why don't you? And it was so simple.
Yeah. and very radical. It was a very radical move to do. In fact, my mother only died 10 years ago, and her sister, who was 96 or something at the time, she said to me, so now you can go back to your career. And she meant my science career.
Oh, God.
I'd been out of it for 40 years.
Yeah.
There was always that sense of, when are you going to go back? When are you going to get back into it again?
Yeah. And it was a totally new trajectory of your life altogether. And it was like you found yourself, and you found your creative genius, your creativity. Like you start to get curious, and I love that word curious, right? Because that's what pulls us forward, that curiosity, and it's childlike as well. And I believe we all need to have curiosity, because it's what drives the dopamine, what gives us encouragement to get up and go and explore and discover. You mentioned those words a few times. And you tried many different things, after that, many different things. And then you fell onto astrology. So I'm curious about the astrology. Talk to us about it, because astrology is a big area, and the misconception about it's hard to learn. It's very expensive. It's years of learning. But you did a reading for me not so long ago, and I was very much intrigued. In fact, I'm going to go back over the recording, because I discovered a lot about myself through astrology. Tell us how that works.
So, that the planets in our solar system are forever moving. Yeah, they're always moving, and they all move at different speeds. So the moon moves, around the whole thing in a month. Then the sun takes a year, and Mercury and Venus take a year. Mars takes 2 years. Pluto takes 250 years to go all the way around. So they're all moving at different speeds. In the moment that we are born, like when we take that first breath, they are in a certain pattern. So they have relationships to each other in the sky that is completely unique. It will never be repeated. And 2 seconds later, it's moved into another position, because it's always moving. So we can capture that moment when we are born, and you can just look it up in a book, where every planet was, and you can draw a map of the sky at that precise moment that you're born. And it's as unique as your fingerprint. You'd have to have a conjoined twin to have exactly the same map. And that map, it's like a blueprint of our energy, because in order to recognize astrology, you have to understand that everything is part of one energy. Yeah, it's just one energy. The whole universe is one energy. Yeah. And we're just like a little hologram of the whole. So at that moment that we were born, there was a specific energy pattern in the solar system, and we now carry that energy pattern throughout our lives.
It will influence us throughout our whole lives.
Yes. And it's very interesting, for example, to look at people who were born in the late half of the 60s, because they carry the energy pattern of all that was going on in the late half of the 60s. The hippie culture, the mind expanding drugs, the Vietnam War, all the CND marches. There was an explosion of consciousness in the second half of the 60s. And everybody who was born during that time carries that energy with them for their whole lives. And equally, if you look back at the newspapers of the day you were born and you look at what was actually going on, and you can see, do I carry that energy with me to some extent or another?
Does it resonate?
And anyway, so a chart, it's the thing about it, it is so fast. You can, once you understand what each of the little symbols mean roughly, you don't need to know much, you just know roughly. You can look at somebody's unique fingerprint, their unique star map, and you can go, are you really good at this? Da, 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 da. And they'll go, yeah. And, they might express it in a slightly different, everybody express things in slightly different ways, but, they'll say, yeah, I'm really good at that, or I love doing that, or whatever, or worse, which is the thing I find, I did love doing that when I was a kid, but I don't do it anymore.
Yes. And why? What happened? Yeah. So people can literally, all they need is their birthday, the date of their birth and the time that they were born. And they can enter this in on a website, Deborah. Am I right in saying that? And then start. So obviously, you may need an astrologist to read it for you, or if you learn about a few of the things or whatever, or, or the energy of you, just Google it. And you might get a summary of that day or whatever, what was going on around that year, any kind of big events or something like that, and that'll be imprinted in the stars. But Deborah, how can we use this to discover our genius? How do you guide people through their maps?
So, did you say maps?
Maps or charts?
Oh, maps, sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's just that masks has been coming up a lot for me recently.
Right.
Because we're all given like a mask to wear when we're little. We're told, first of all, what gender we are.
Yeah.
Then we're told what our name is. And then for the next 7 years or whatever, we're told whether we're a good girl or a bad girl, a clever girl or not very clever, and da-da-da-da. We're just given this endless list of things that we are, and that becomes our mask.
We believe it, yeah. And
the star map is a really useful way of being able to ask questions, very pertinent questions about, so what were you told? What do you believe about yourself? And the thing about a star map is that everything works on what I call a spectrum. So everything can work at a very low vibration or at a very high vibration.
Okay.
And our masks tend to be at a low vibration. Most of us remember 70% of what we remember is self-sabotaging.
Wow.
We remember, I'm not very clever, or I'm not very pretty, or I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, or I need to be afraid of this, or I need to be afraid of that. That's most of our conditioning, 70% was self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
But in that first 7 years, we all lived in our imaginal realm. Yeah, we all had like our dreams and our imaginary friends, or we had certain things that we
weren't afraid of anything. We weren't afraid of anything.
No, we didn't live in time. We lived outside of time.
Interesting.
And if we'd been left to our own devices, so I know a lot of home-educated children who are left to their own devices to pursue what they love, they're all geniuses by the age of 12.
Lois, yes, that's an eye.
Whereas the rest of us, we got sent to school and we were just fed information.
Yeah.
Which we then had to repeat. We weren't encouraged to follow our own pursuits, our own passions.
That makes sense.
And so there's another layer of mask that goes on. But in the star map, I can see whether someone where their creativity lies. Because as human beings, what makes us different to every other animal is that we are creative.
That's our purpose.
So I can see in a star map, I can see immediately just where their Venus is, or their Mercury, or their Neptune, or their Uranus. I could just see immediately, I bet you're really good at this, or you're really interested in this area of life, or you're really good, you're whatever. And as I say, most people will go, oh, yeah, actually, I am, or I was.
Yeah, it's interesting. And to be able to uncover that, it's like a fast track, this tool, isn't it? It's like a fast track to uncover, because, lots of people are going through this thing of self-development, and people want to find who they are, and I've heard you saying that before, you want to find yourself, and it's rediscovering yourself, really, because like you're there, you're just not connected. It's just disconnection, because we've been fed all this false information that we've been taught to conform to and believe, and without questioning, and it's interesting what you say. When we go to school, we're taught all these things. And I was thinking about it, my daughter is 12, she's just gone into secondary school, and I'm having concerns already, just seeing how the whole thing is operating, even though I knew in theory, and I've gone to school myself, obviously, but I can really see the conditioning, and they've been told what to do. They're, even the way the teachers speak to the children, it's like you have to do what you're told. Sit there and be quiet, and you have to do what you're told. And, to learn. So it's all memory stuff. They have to learn stuff. Like, I see it. And there's not much creativity. And even the hours that are allocated to things like home economics and PE, it's very little. And it should be the other way around, because...
And even in art, they're still told what to do.
Yeah. And
I don't feel pressure.
Yeah, I'm hoping now, because she is a genius when it comes to art. Oh my God. Some of the ideas that she comes up with here at home, she wants to make a costume for a friend, and she says, Mom, have you got any clothes that are red that you're throwing out? And I gave her some pillowcases, and I was curious to see what she's going to create. And she made this hat, like a mushroom kind of a hat. I can't even describe it, but it was brilliant. She had the right mess now, but my God, it was 3 hours of entertainment, and she was in pure bliss. And I just let her at it, because she was creative. And
that's how I was as a teenager as well.
Yeah, I haven't sat down at all. It's brilliant.
No. But then you have to be very careful around things like homework, because homework can completely dominate all their free time.
Yes. Any teachers listening out there? Yes, I totally agree. Children should be allowed to play. They learn through play. And what I have is that when children are stressed in school, right, with all this domination and indoctrination, kind of, if you want, all this kind of stuff, they get stressed because they're doing something that they've been told to do. They don't necessarily like it. They're not interested. They're not curious about the topic or whatever. They're just given a selected amount of subjects they can choose from. And, they don't like an awful lot of stuff. They're not interested. So they're switched off. They're stressed. How on earth can they learn? Because learning is being, there's no stress. You're open. You're curious. You're interested. And all them qualities are gone. So how can they learn?
Yeah.
My point. And
the schools in general, they don't have the time to really find out what kids are interested in. I once invigilated for a young boy. I was invigilating for a GCSE French oral exam. I just had to sit with them in the waiting room while they waited to go in. There was one boy left, and I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, I don't think you can speak a word of French, can you? I just could tell, I've been a teacher. I know what they're like, and I sort of I looked at him and I said, what are you interested in? What do you love to do? Fishing. That was it. That was the only word he said. And I knew by the way he said it that he was an expert at fishing. And I thought, I bet not one teacher in the school knows this boy is an expert at fishing, and they've given up on him.
There you go. And to know that, straight up, he was fully confident. He answered it very quickly. He knew exactly what it was. Deborah, tell us, what are the key questions that we need to ask ourselves to find our curiosity? I'm sure there are, because it's always in the powerful questions, isn't it?
To find our creativity. Well, so for me, there's two rough areas. One, we want to go back to when we were small. And what was it that we loved to do? So I said, I love to sew. I still love to sew. Okay, I still love it. And I make sure that I give myself the time to do something. I mean, recently I thought, oh my God, I haven't done anything for ages. So I just said, right, you're going to go make a hat. So I knew it'd be quick. And I went and made this hat. And you have to do it in a way where it's not timed. Yeah, get rid of clocks and watches.
Yes.
They're a killer of creativity.
Pressure on you.
So, but even, if we think, well, what I was interested in as a small kid is not really relatable now, there'll be something about it. So my mother was a publican, and so she always had to have like little posters advertising this and advertising that in the bar. And she would get me to make the posters. So of course they're all hand drawn and everything. Do you know what? I love doing my presentations in Canva. I love making the little images for Canva. And it occurred to me the other day, and I thought, I'm making posters again.
Yeah, yes, I get it. Okay, brilliant. Yes.
The other thing I find useful for people to think back to what books they loved or what films they were absolutely obsessed with. So I was a very poor reader. I didn't like reading, but I would read Enoch Blyton's The Magic Faraway Tree again and again and again and again and again. Because for me, it was to do with that fairy realm, that magical space.
Yeah.
And that is still really important to me. I think that probably links in with the astrology now, that being able to move into that more magical space. And when I meet people, I often think, oh, you're a fairy, you know what I mean? Because I feel that magicalness about them. But the main thing, when people think about creativity, they tend to think about making things.
Yeah.
But actually, that is not the fundamental of what I teach when I talk about creativity. Creativity, we all now know that our thoughts become manifest, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to manifest something, then we have to think about what it is that we want to manifest, yes? So we have to imagine what it is that we want to manifest. But the problem is that 70% of our thoughts are negative. Well, we are then manifesting and creating all that negativity. So if we take creativity to that point of every thought we have is becoming manifest, then we have to start really looking at our thoughts.
Yeah.
And every time we have a negative thought, like, I'm not very good at this, or I don't like that, or that's, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You have to catch it.
And it's even negative conversations that you even have with other people as well, because they tend to go on, don't they?
I call that negative unity.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes.
Where somebody will say, oh, do you hear what they did? No. And you'll go, I know, and I'm terrible. And everybody around the circle all agrees. And
the energy rails.
You feel great because you're all on the same page and you all think it's horrible, but it was negative.
Yep. Yeah.
And therefore you're just creating more of it. If you're having a conversation about how much you hate something, well, you're sure going to get more of that if you're giving it that much attention.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
So we really have to be very, very aware, and it's so subtle. They can be so subtle at our thoughts and our feelings, our negative thoughts and feelings.
Joe Dispenza talks a lot about that as well. Yeah, you follow him, Joe Dispenza, and Bruce Lipton. He's another person that I follow quite a lot.
They all do.
They do. They all do. So they're two really powerful things. So go back to what it was that you enjoyed doing when you were a child. So rediscover that and reconnect with that in some shape or form. And then what books or films did you enjoy reading or watching when you were a young child? Because that brings you back, because you enjoyed doing that. That makes so much sense. And actually, I did hear that before. So start there to discover what it is you really like. Because, Deborah, it's such a powerful question, because And it's a great way to find out as well, because if you asked the majority of people what is they enjoy doing, they wouldn't know how to answer it. And that's really sad.
Oh, you wouldn't believe how many people say, I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you did not spend the first 7 years of your life just sat doing nothing.
Yeah, you were a child. Yeah, you were a child. Yeah. So Deborah, my goodness. So Deborah, you do astrology readings, one-to-one astrology readings for people as well. So you've done that with me, but you also do online courses and you do lots of webinars. Can you tell us about that as well? What it is you teach in those?
Yeah, so I teach astrology online, which it was interesting what you said, about people thinking that, it's really difficult and really expensive, because it used to be. It did. When I studied, there were no computers or anything. You had to learn it, or you had to learn how to do the maths and da-da-da-da. But it's not like that anymore. As you said, you can get a free app on your phone, you can put in your birth date, and you've got a chart within seconds. And I've now started teaching astrology in a way where it's about intuition. It's not about memorizing or learning stuff. It's about using the intuition. And that is just practice. That is just looking at endless charts, seeing how different they all are, getting the person to talk to you. And then you'll go, oh, that's probably that. Oh, that's probably that. Oh, that might be that, type of thing. And then gradually, that's how I learn.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I teach astrology. I'm also about to start teaching how to transcend time, because I think that time is the biggest controlling factor in our lives.
It's really,
it's the artificial.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it started with the timetables for the railway, the trains, wasn't it? Wasn't that
right? 150 years ago. Up until that point, we all lived in different time zones.
Yeah.
We all lived in different times. People didn't have clocks and watches. And then 150 years ago, they had to link up the train timetables, and suddenly we were all programmed to operate under time.
Yeah.
And it, how I bet every single person listening to this has had an experience where time has either flown by or it has gone painfully slowly.
Yeah, I've experienced both.
Yeah, because time is actually not linear. It contracts, it expands, we can move through it, we can flow with it, but we have to stop using clocks and watches in order to experience that. Anyway, so I'm about to start, because I don't know anybody who does it. So I'm about to start teaching that. But then I also run retreats. That's my favorite thing to do, because when we actually immerse ourselves in several days of a completely different experience, it changes us. It changes who we are, and it gives us an opportunity. So my retreat's all about play. We do a lot of dressing up. Do you know any kids who don't like dressing up? Children are always acting out different personas because they're exploring. They want to know all these different bits about themselves. But as adults, we wear the same things every day, day in, day out. We've got our little thing, and we haven't changed our haircut in 40 years or whatever it is, and so what I do is I have this huge dressing up wardrobe, and people get to try on different types of outfits. They're not like Superman outfits or princess outfits. They're more like clothes you'd wear going out.
Yeah.
But the idea is that people then pick out things and they put them on, and then they go, whoa, because it's like it brings out a different part of ourselves.
Yeah, I love it.
That we're not familiar with. So I remember this one guy recently when I was doing that retreat for MTV. He was the film man, the cameraman, and he was part South American and part Filipino and part English. And he chose some clothes and he put them on, and they made him look like, first of all, like a South American shaman, and then like a sort of more Asian type of shaman. And he never wore anything except black lycra. So he'd never experienced himself from his backgrounds. And he just kept staring at himself. It was like he was connecting with something deep inside himself that he'd never given any attention to. His history, his background, his genetics. And it can be so powerful like that. Really, very powerful. So the retreats are all about play and ceremony, and we use the astrology, obviously. And we go outside, we go into nature, we do music. It basically getting back into our inner child and having fun and rediscovering.
Rediscover. I can really hear the boundaries coming down right through the play. Because when you take down the boundaries, then you can see things. And that's what's missing for people is they don't know what they don't know. They're totally blind to so much. And including me, like I've discovered things, And I love with the retreat, you say it's back to back. You're just totally immersed in this. You can't think of anything else. I experienced that on a program I did. It was a 3-day event. And the program went on from 9 a.m. through to 10 o'clock at night, Deborah. So we literally went to sleep, like we stayed in the hotel, got up the next morning. So, and even when you were eating, you were surrounded by these people. And that's all, like it was like you were locked away from the outside world for 3 solid days. And it was powerful. It really was, because that's all you were thinking. And it was like you were recalibrating or something,
Yeah.
And you were supported by this, there was no chance of you slipping back. It was 3 days of solid. So I get it. The retreat's been a powerful way to rediscover yourself. And yeah, really, really powerful. So Deborah, one thing I want to ask you actually is, what's going on in the world in the stars at the moment? What can you see in the stars? Because there's lots of eclipses and all this kind of stuff. Can you give us a quick...
Well, we have eclipses every year. We have what's called the eclipse season every year. So yes, we're in the middle of the eclipse season now.
And it's now, just for the record, it's now... Just coming up to Halloween, just for anyone watching the recording. So we're just coming up to Halloween, okay?
Yeah. And this Halloween, we have got a lunar eclipse happening, and we had a solar eclipse nearly 2 weeks ago. And eclipses are always like portals. They're always an opportunity. I'm really into portals. So I use portals a lot on the retreat, because a portal is like a doorway. So, when you step it through your front door of your house, you're moving state, you're changing state from your outside state. And then you come through the door and you change state to your indoors state. And so portals offer us an opportunity to change state, to become something different, to be somebody different, to...
The energy is supporting that.
Yeah. And at the moment, we've been having some really unusual astrology. I do my daily astrology tips.
Yes, I'm in your group. So you have a group for anyone up there, yeah.
Yeah, if anybody wants to join that. And we've got this interesting effect going on of like a light beam shining down. And it's going on for quite a few weeks. And I feel like it's an opportunity for us to really focus in on what it is that we want, and what it is that we are creating.
Yeah.
Because the light beam is coming from what we call the personal planet, so our ego planet, our mind, and then is translating into what we call the spiritual planets, the more the bigger planets, the planets that affect everybody.
Okay.
And one of the key things at the moment is that we all think that we're powerless, that we don't have a very big influence as an individual, which is so not true. They say that the higher the positive state we can maintain as an individual, we counteract the negativity of hundreds, if not thousands of people. Because we all know now that we've got this, this vibration coming from our hearts, this electromagnetic vibration, if you want to call it your aura or whatever. and the higher we can bring our own frequency, our own vibration, then we emit that from our hearts into the environment, and we affect everybody within our environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. Heart Math Institute talks about that as well, and they've measured, and they said that they've shown that the heart has a brain of its own. It has its own neurons, and it emits this electromagnetic energy, as they say, and it's, I don't know, is it 100 times stronger than the brain? This is a phenomenal.
Well, there's different figures. I've heard different.
Yeah,
figures.
but it's big anyway. It's much bigger than the brain. And it's been shown that the brain actually responds to the heart. The heart intuitive picks up what's just about to happen, and it's like in a split nanosecond, but it instructs the brain. So there is that brain heart relationship.
Yes,
like, but
and you know, this is such a crucial transition.
Yeah.
In human evolution, in planetary evolution.
Yeah.
Because, as we were just saying, going back to education, we've all been trained to come from our mind, that everything is to do with thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah. We do have this brain-body connection. It's been shown. And even all of our trauma, it's been shown, you know, it's stored in our cells. Our body remembers, and it has this two-way communication. So it's not just our mind and intuition, our feelings, our emotions, all of these, our heart energy. Oh, it's just incredible.
And you know, if you can change your thinking to more positive, you can actually heal your body.
Yes, you can. And I've seen that. Yeah. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about that. Well, they all do, as you say. Yeah, they do. But, yeah.
Yeah, because our body is only trapped negative thinking.
I'm going to be interviewing a lady who overcame sickle cell through all that positive. Yeah, she overcame it, and she's going to be coming on telling her story. I can't wait. I've just been introduced to her there this morning, so I can't wait to have her on. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. It really is, because that's where it comes from. It's this ease, this harmony in all our cells, and our cells literally shut off to protect us. That's what they're doing. They're protecting us, but in shutting it off, they're also shutting away from any protective mechanism and communication. Like,
they're shutting off from life.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah.
And two little things I'd like to get in. One, you know, we look at the state of the world and we go, oh, you know, they should do something. Oh,
division.
If we each take care of the state of our own inner world, it will automatically change the outside world. So we can each take responsibility for changing the outside world by changing our own inner world.
That's true.
And the other thing I wanted to say, that the easiest way to do that, I've discovered, is to smile.
Oh, yes.
Because even if we don't feel like smiling, if we just go like this and make our face go like that, our brain goes, oh, she's happy. Let's put happy hormones.
Yes, it is so true. And it's a universal language. And even if you're out walking, this bugs me sometimes when I'm out walking and I say hello and I smile to people and I make an effort, because that's my intention for the day. Do you know what I mean? To, even if I'm in a cafe and I order coffee or something, you know, I might create a little bit of banter, a bit of talk or whatever, and just say something nice, because people like to be spoken to as well, and say good morning, good afternoon, or wherever in a spot. And it lightens the people up, Deborah. It lightens them up. You've no idea what other people are going through.
And so you basically just triggered their happy hormones.
Yeah, it is so powerful, Deborah.
You've given them a dose of happy hormones.
Yeah, absolutely. Deborah, we could talk forever. I just think you're amazing what you're doing, and you're really lighting up the world. You really are. And I'm so glad that we met through Simone, and we're doing this podcast together, and I've done a reading with you. And if anybody wants to follow Deborah, her WhatsApp group, so she's a WhatsApp group where she puts in a daily astrology reading every single day, and it's really interesting. So you can join that for free as well, and you can follow her on YouTube, follow all her webinars, and sign up to her courses as well. Deborah, where can people find you? Just give a shout out for your website.
Well, I think the best way to find me is actually in Facebook, because I use Facebook a lot. So it's Deborah Maw, MAW.
Okay, brilliant.
And obviously, if they're in connection with you, then it will pop up on their screen. And in fact, even better way than the WhatsApp group is that they can join the 8 Moons Astrology group. So it's a number 8, Moons Astrology.
Oh, I'll join that.
8 Moons Astrology. And I put the daily tips every day in there.
All right.
And then it's not cluttered with anything else.
Facebook.
Yeah. And they can just join that for free.
I'll put all that in the show notes, all those links. And I have some other links there as well. So I'll put them all in the show notes. But yeah, people, please do hook up with Deborah. She really, really is incredible. She's years and years of experience and even her own life personal experience. And so she knows what she's talking about. So do follow Deborah and work with her, you know, if you have the opportunity, if this is an area that interests you. But it really will fast track your life and help you discover who you are and what it is you truly, truly love, and help you open up that creative genius in you. So Deborah, on that note, thank you so much for being with me today. Have a great day and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Johann. It's been lovely. Really enjoyed it. Bye everybody.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Take care.